Welcome. Today we're diving into the labor supply curve, a fundamental concept in economics that helps us understand how people decide whether to work and how much to work. The labor supply curve shows the relationship between the wage rate and the quantity of labor that workers are willing to provide. But what shapes this curve? Why do some people work more when wages rise while others might work less? Over the next several scenes, we'll explore the key factors that influence labor supply, from wages and preferences to demographics and government policies. Let's get started by laying the groundwork for our discussion. Labor supply curve is a graphical representation that shows how many hours people are willing to work at different wage rates. Typically, as wages increase, more people are willing to work or existing workers are willing to work more hours. However, this relationship isn't always straightforward. Sometimes higher wages might lead people to work less, especially if they value leisure time more as their income rises. Understanding this curve is crucial for businesses, policymakers, and workers alike, as it helps predict how changes in the economy or policy might affect employment levels. Wage rates are perhaps the most obvious factor influencing labor supply. When wages go up, working becomes more attractive compared to leisure or other non-work activities. This is known as the substitution effect. Higher wages encourage people to substitute work for leisure. However, there's also the income effect. As people earn more, they may choose to work less because they can maintain their standard of living with fewer hours. The overall impact on labor supply depends on which effect is stronger for each individual. Let's take a closer look at the substitution effect. When wages rise, the opportunity cost of not working increases. In other words, every hour spent on leisure now means giving up more income. As a result, many people decide to work more hours to take advantage of the higher pay. This effect is especially strong for those who are able to adjust their work hours easily, such as part-time workers or freelancers. The substitution effect helps explain why labor supply often increases as wages rise, at least up to a certain point. The flip side, the income effect, comes into play as people earn more. With higher wages, workers can afford to enjoy more leisure time without sacrificing their standard of living. For some, this means cutting back on work hours or even retiring earlier. The income effect can lead to backward-bending labor supply curve, where labor supply actually decreases as wages continue to rise. This is more common among higher-income individuals or those nearing retirement. Wages aren't the only thing that matters. Non-monetary benefits like flexible hours, job satisfaction, workplace safety, and opportunities for advancement can also influence labor supply. For example, a job that offers remote work or a positive work environment might attract more workers even if the pay is slightly lower. These factors can shift the labor supply curve, making certain jobs more appealing and increasing the number of people willing to work. Demographic factors play a significant role in shaping labor supply. Age, gender, education level, and family responsibilities all affect people's willingness and ability to work. For instance, younger people might be more willing to take on physically demanding jobs, while parents with young children may prefer part-time work or flexible schedules. Changes in population size and composition, such as aging populations or increased female participation, can also shift the overall labor supply in an economy. Education and skill levels are crucial in determining who participates in the labor market and what kinds of jobs they seek. Higher education often leads to better job opportunities and higher wages, which can increase labor supply among skilled workers. On the other hand, a lack of education or training can limit job options and reduce the willingness to work, especially if available jobs are low-paying or physically demanding. Investment in education and training can therefore boost labor supply in the long run. Family structure and social expectations can greatly influence labor supply decisions. For example, in households where one partner stays home to care for children, the other may work longer hours. Cultural norms about gender roles, retirement, and work-life balance also play a part. In some societies, early retirement is common, while in others, people work well into old age. These social factors can shift the labor supply curve in different directions, depending on prevailing attitudes and policies. Government policies can have a major impact on labor supply. Policies like minimum wage laws, tax rates, welfare programs, and retirement age regulations all influence people's decisions to work. For instance, generous unemployment benefits might reduce the incentive to seek work, while tax credits for working parents can encourage labor force participation. Understanding these policy effects is essential for designing interventions that support a healthy labor market. Migration can significantly affect the labor supply in a country. When new workers enter the labor market, they increase the overall supply of labor, which can impact wages and employment opportunities for existing workers. The skills and education levels of immigrants also play a role. Highly skilled immigrants may fill gaps in specialized fields, while lower skilled workers might take on jobs that are hard to fill locally. Immigration policies, therefore, are a key factor in shaping the labor supply curve. Advances in technology can change the types of jobs available and the skills required, which in turn affects labor supply. Automation and artificial intelligence, for example, may reduce demand for certain manual jobs but increase opportunities in tech-related fields. Workers may need to retrain or acquire new skills to stay relevant. As technology evolves, the labor supply curve shifts to reflect these changes, with some workers leaving the labor force and others entering new industry. Health is a critical factor in labor supply. Poor health or disability can limit a person's ability to work, while good health can extend working years and increase productivity. Public health initiatives, access to healthcare, and workplace safety regulations all contribute to a healthier workforce. As health outcomes improve, more people are able and willing to participate in the labor market, shifting the labor supply curve outward. Retirement decisions have a big impact on labor supply, especially as populations age. Factors like pension availability, retirement age policies, and personal savings influence when people choose to leave the workforce. Some may retire early due to financial security or health issues, while others continue working for personal fulfillment or financial necessity. These choices collectively shape the labor supply, particularly in countries with aging population. Labor market flexibility refers to how easily workers can move between jobs, industries, or locations. Flexible labor markets make it easier for people to find work that matches their skills and preferences, which can increase overall labor supply. Factors like remote work options, part-time opportunities, and gig economy platforms contribute to this flexibility. When workers have more choices, they're more likely to participate in the labor market. Labor unions and collective bargaining can influence labor supply by negotiating wages, benefits, and working conditions. Strong unions may secure higher wages and better benefits, making work more attractive and increasing labor supply. However, if union demands lead to higher labor costs, employers might hire fewer workers. The presence and strength of unions can therefore shift the labor supply curve in different ways, depending on the context. Some jobs are seasonal or temporary, such as agricultural work or holiday retail positions. These opportunities can temporarily increase labor supply during peak periods. Workers may enter the labor market for short-term jobs to earn extra income or gain experience. The availability of seasonal and temporary work adds flexibility to the labor supply, allowing people to participate when it suits their needs. Geographic mobility refers to the ability and willingness of workers to move to different locations for work. High mobility can increase labor supply in regions with strong job markets, while low mobility can lead to labor shortages in certain areas. Factors like housing costs, transportation, and family ties influence mobility. Policies that support relocation or remote work can help balance labor supply across regions. Access to affordable childcare is a major factor for parents, especially mothers, when deciding whether to work. High childcare costs or lack of availability can discourage labor force participation. Policies that support childcare, such as subsidies or workplace daycare, can increase labor supply by making it easier for parents to balance work and family responsibilities. Transportation options and commute times can influence labor supply. Long or expensive commutes may discourage people from working, especially if wages don't compensate for the time and cost. Improvements in public transportation or the rise of remote work can make jobs more accessible, encouraging more people to join the labor force. Tax policies, especially income taxes, can influence labor supply decisions. High marginal tax rates may discourage additional work, as workers keep less of each extra dollar earned. Conversely, tax credits or lower rates can encourage people to work more. Policymakers must consider these effects when designing tax systems to avoid unintended consequences for labor supply. Unemployment benefits provide a safety net for those out of work, but they can also affect labor supply. Generous benefits may reduce the urgency to find a new job, especially if the benefits approach previous earnings. However, well-designed programs can support workers while encouraging a return to work. Striking the right balance is key to maintaining a healthy labor supply. Minimum wage laws set the lowest legal pay for workers. Raising the minimum wage can attract more people to the labor force, especially in low-wage sectors. However, if set too high, it may lead to job losses or reduced hours as employers adjust to higher labor costs. The impact on labor supply depends on the balance between attracting workers and maintaining employment opportunities. Social attitudes and cultural values about work can shape labor supply. In some cultures, work is highly valued and people are encouraged to participate in the labor market. In others, there may be more emphasis on leisure or family time. These attitudes influence when people enter the workforce, how long they work, and when they retire, all of which affect the overall labor supply. The overall state of the economy plays a big role in labor supply. During economic booms, more jobs are available and people are more likely to seek work. In recessions, job opportunities shrink and some may leave the labor force altogether. Economic stability and growth encourage labor force participation, while uncertainty can have the opposite effect. The ease with which workers can find suitable jobs affects labor supply. Efficient job matching through online platforms, employment agencies, or networking reduces the time and effort needed to find work. When job search is easier, more people are willing to enter the labor market, increasing labor supply. Conversely, if job matching is difficult, some may give up looking for work. Discrimination based on gender, race, age, or disability can limit labor supply by discouraging affected groups from participating in the workforce. Barriers such as lack of accessibility, unequal pay, or biased hiring practices reduce opportunities and lower overall labor supply. Addressing these issues can help unlock the full potential of the labor market. Availability of part-time and flexible work arrangements can increase labor supply, especially for students, parents, or those with other commitments. Flexible schedules make it easier for people to balance work with other responsibilities, encouraging more people to participate in the labor market. Employers who offer these options can tap into a broader pool of workers. Rise of the gig economy, where people take on short-term freelance or contract work, has changed the way many participate in the labor market. Gig work offers flexibility and autonomy, attracting those who might not seek traditional employment. However, it can also mean less job security and benefits. The gig economy has expanded labor supply by making it easier for people to work on their own terms. Wrap up, the labor supply curve is shaped by a wide range of factors, from wages and non-monetary benefits to demographics, policies, and social attitudes. Each factor can shift the curve in different ways, influencing how many people are willing and able to work at various wage rates. Understanding these influences helps businesses, policymakers, and workers make informed decisions. As the world of work continues to evolve, keeping an eye on these factors will be more important than ever. Thanks for joining us on this exploration of the labor supply curve.